He destroyed her life while she was dying. Then he tried to steal mine. Big mistake. Police lights, blue and red, flashing off expensive townhouse windows. I'm standing behind the officers, watching him realize what's happening. His hands are shaking. Mine aren't. Cut to black. But 12 days earlier, I was burying my daughter. I'm Vincent Hartley, 63 years old. Spent 40 years as a forensic accountant in Sacramento. The kind who builds federal cases, exposes fraud, follows money until it has nowhere left to hide. My wife Catherine died of cancer 8 years ago. Our daughter Claire was my whole world after that, my reason to breathe. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer took her in 9 months. The doctor said 6. She fought like hell. I held her hand when she took her last breath. Her husband, Brandon, he was at a business conference in Tahoe. Showed up 6 hours after she'd already gone cold. 41 people came. Friends from Claire's yoga studio, cousins who barely kept in touch, coworkers signing the book and leaving. Brandon played his part perfectly. I watched him dab at dry eyes, accept hugs. The grieving husband, polished, practiced, completely hollow. I stood beside my daughter's casket, numb, voices blurred into nothing. Then his hand on my shoulder, firm, possessive. We need to talk. He pulled me to the back hallway, away from everyone, 20 feet from Claire's body. Brandon straightened his tie, silk, expensive, probably bought with Claire's money. About the house on Willow Creek Drive. I just stared at him. My daughter was right there, in a casket, close enough to hear if the dead could listen. This isn't... Actually, it's the perfect time. His voice went cold, professional. Claire and I own 2/3 of that property, legally. I've already talked to my attorney. You have 21 days to pack your things and find somewhere else. The mask slipped, just for a second. But I saw it. The predator sizing up wounded prey. That's my home. I raised Claire there. Catherine died there. He smiled. Not warm, not sympathetic. And now it's mine. 21 days, Vincent. Don't make this messy. He walked away, back to the mourners. Grief mask back on like he'd never taken it off. I stood in that hallway, my daughter's body 20 feet away. Something inside me didn't break. It sharpened. Because Brandon didn't know 3 things. 1, I wasn't just an accountant. I'd spent 40 years building cases that put white-collar criminals in federal prison. 2, I'd been documenting everything since the day Claire brought him home. 3, grief doesn't make everyone weak. Sometimes it makes them dangerous. I walked to the parking lot, pulled out my phone. Trevor, it's Vincent. I need those files. Everything from when Claire got married. All of it. Monday morning. I looked back at the funeral home. Brandon was visible through the window, accepting condolences, playing the role. I smiled, for the first time in weeks. Not happiness, something colder. That night, I sat in my kitchen, the same kitchen where Brandon convinced Claire to add his name to my deed 3 years ago. I opened my laptop, started typing. Brandon gave me 21 days. I only needed 72 hours. Subscribe. You won't believe what I found in those files. If someone tried this at your parents' funeral, how far would you go? Comment below. To understand what I did to Brandon Cassidy, you need to see what he did to Claire. Because stealing my house, that was just the final insult. How it started. 4 years ago. Claire met him at a tech conference in San Francisco. She was there networking for her startup, eco-friendly packaging, her passion project. I met Brandon 2 weeks later at Sunday brunch in Oakland Hills. He ordered the most expensive wine without checking prices, talked about his property portfolio, laughed too loud, shook my hand too firmly. My gut screamed wrong, but Claire looked at him with Catherine's eyes, like he'd hung the moon. "Dad, isn't he amazing?" I lied through my teeth. "He seems great, sweetheart." They married 11 months later, Napa Valley Vineyard. Brandon's family spent Claire's money on upgrades she didn't want. I walked her down the aisle, handed her over, prayed my instincts were paranoid. They weren't. 6 months into their marriage, Sunday dinner at my place. Brandon brought it up casually. "Hey, Vincent, for estate planning, it'd be smart to add both our names to the house deed. Keeps everything in the family. You'd still live here. Nothing changes. Just paperwork." Claire nodded, trusting. "It protects everyone, Dad." Every cell in my body screamed no. But Claire looked so hopeful. I added their names to my deed. Brandon shook my hand. Too firm. Too long. "Smart move. Family takes care of family." I should have trusted my gut. 1 year later, Claire started losing weight, and Brandon's mask started cracking. If you're not subscribed yet, what's stopping you? Drop a comment. Claire at 33, vibrant, a runner, yoga instructor on weekends. Then the exhaustion hit, the pain, weight falling off her like autumn leaves. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Inoperable. Aggressive. My world shattered. Again. First Catherine, now Claire. Brandon started missing her chemotherapy appointments. "Work emergency, babe. The Roseville development needs me. Your dad's there, right?" I sat beside Claire's hospital bed at UC Davis Medical Center, held her hand through the nausea, the pain, the terror. Brandon posted photos from Arizona, golf courses, expensive dinners, always with the same blonde woman from his office, Justine Walsh, 26, his assistant. Claire made excuses, voice weak. "He's stressed. The business is struggling. He's keeping us afloat." I bit my tongue, started documenting everything, because Brandon's business wasn't struggling. It was thriving. I called my old colleague Trevor, private investigator. He started digging. The bank statements told me everything. Offshore accounts in the Caymans, hidden LLCs, cash transfers to personal accounts, credit card charges at boutique hotels while Claire was in hospice. Trevor called me one night. "Vincent, there's something else. Life insurance policy on Claire. $2.3 million. Taken out 14 months ago." My hands went cold. "When was she diagnosed?" 16 months ago. He knew, Vincent. He insured her after the diagnosis. I almost dropped the phone. Brandon bet on my daughter dying, insured the wager, and now he was letting her suffer while counting his money? But it gets worse. 3 weeks before Claire died, I found something that made my blood run cold. Most people don't know this, but it changes everything. I was helping Claire at home. She was too weak to manage alone. Brandon was traveling. I opened her medication cabinet to organize her pain medications, counted the pills, cross-referenced the prescription dates. The numbers didn't match, not even close. Brandon picked up her prescriptions every week. The pharmacy confirmed it, but Claire wasn't receiving full doses. I asked her gently, "Sweetheart, how's your pain management?" Her eyes filled with tears. "Dad, it hurts so much. The medication isn't working. I told Brandon, but he says I'm taking everything prescribed." My daughter was dying in agony that could have been prevented. Brandon was either selling the pills or just keeping them. Either way, he was letting her suffer. I called her hospice nurse, Naomi, off the record. "Mr. Hartley, I can't officially comment, but Claire's pain levels don't match her medication schedule. If she received her full doses, her final weeks would be significantly more comfortable. Who picks up her medications?" Her silence told me everything.
Trevor called 72 hours before Claire died. Vincent, Brandon's active on real estate forums, planning to flip your house the moment Claire passes. Already contacted realtors, already has a buyer lined up. Claire was still breathing. Brandon was already spending the insurance money. I moved in, slept on the couch, refused to leave her side. Brandon was increasingly absent. Business trips, networking. Claire could barely speak by the end, but she whispered one thing. Take care of Dad, Brandon. Make sure he's okay. Brandon stood in the doorway, couldn't even approach her bed. Of course, babe, I promise. Liar. 3 days later, Claire died. I was holding her hand. Brandon was in Tahoe with Justine. Funeral morning. I was getting dressed. Found Claire's journal on my nightstand. She must have left it weeks ago. Last entry, 2 weeks before she died. Dad asked if I'm getting my full medication. I said yes, but I don't think I am. The pain is unbearable. I don't understand why the pills aren't working. Brandon says the doctor miscalculated my dosage, but Dad looked worried. I trust Dad's instincts more than Brandon's words. I'm scared. My hands shook holding that journal. Claire knew. She knew Brandon was letting her suffer, and she'd been too weak, too sick, too trusting to confront him. I made a decision in that moment. Brandon wanted 21 days. I'd give him exactly 21 days, and then take everything he'd ever valued. I begin packing, but I'm not running. Tomorrow, Brandon learns what a forensic accountant can really do. Claire suspected the truth, but stayed quiet. Would you? Tell me in the comments.
Brandon thought grief would make me weak. Instead, it made me meticulous. I moved into an extended stay apartment near Arden Fair. Beige walls, generic furniture, but my laptop? That's where the real work happened. Trevor's office, downtown Sacramento. Documents spread across the conference table like a battle map. Bank statements, credit cards, social media screenshots, hospital logs. I haven't slept, haven't shaved, but my mind is sharp, focused. Trevor drops a folder on the table. You told me to record everything 5 years ago. I did. I open it. Audio file from 3 years ago. Sunday dinner. Brandon's voice. Vincent keeps living here as long as he wants. Nothing changes. Just smart estate planning. Claire's comfortable with it, aren't you, babe? Claire's voice. Alive. Trusting. Of course. Dad's home is Dad's home. Forever. I look at Trevor. Oral contract. Witnessed by the deceased property owner. Recorded. That's fraud when he violated it. That's just the beginning. I pull out another file. Now, let's bury him. Following the money, days 4 through 8. This is what I was trained to do. Follow money until it has nowhere to hide. Every transaction, every transfer, every hidden account. What I found? Brandon's struggling business? A lie. 3 accounts in the Caymans. Combined balance $1.8 million. Joint credit cards, Claire's name, Brandon's spending, hotels in Carmel, jewelry, a Portland trip while Claire was in ICU. Valentine's Day purchase at Tiffany's, $6,400, 3 months ago when Claire was barely conscious. I checked Claire's belongings. No Tiffany jewelry. I checked Justine Walsh's Instagram. There it was. Diamond bracelet, posted February 15th. Thankful for the people who see me. Heart. Brandon bought his mistress a $6,400 bracelet with my dying daughter's money. My jaw clenched so hard, my teeth ached. But the evidence that turned this criminal, that came from someone unexpected. Subscribe before you miss this twist. Unknown number. I answered. Mr. Hartley, Naomi Winters, Claire's hospice nurse. I need to talk, off the record. We met at a coffee shop in Folsom.
Her hands shook around her cup. I could lose my license, but I can't stay silent. She slid a folder across the table. Pharmacy records, logs medication, pain management charts. Claire should never have suffered like she did. The prescriptions were correct, the dosages appropriate, but someone wasn't administering them properly. Brandon picked them up every time. I know, her voice cracked. I documented everything. If you need testimony, if this goes to trial, I'll testify. What happened to Claire was neglect, maybe worse. I took the folder, my hand steady, cold. Thank you, Naomi. You might have just saved other families. Trevor's investigator uncovered more. Text messages between Brandon and Justine. Just a few more months, baby. Once the insurance clears, we're set for life. Sent 3 weeks before Claire died. Real estate forum posts under Brandon's username. Best way to force property sale when co-owner won't sell. Looking at 2/3 ownership situation. Posted 6 weeks before Claire died. Brandon's calendar, synced to Claire's iPad, which I now had. Business trips, matching hotel charges with Justine. Meeting with divorce attorney scheduled for 3 months out. Note, wait for insurance settlement first. He planned everything. The affair, the insurance, the house theft, possibly even Claire's suffering. On day 16, Brandon called me, and he made his biggest mistake. My burner phone rang. Brandon's voice. Confident. Arrogant. Vincent, just checking in. You getting packed? I swallowed my rage. Played defeated. Already gone, Brandon. Left 2 weeks ago. Silence. You already moved out? Seemed easier. Why drag it out? His laugh. Victorious. Cruel. Well, that's actually mature of you. I closed my eyes. Every word was being recorded. Claire would want us to be civil. Exactly. Hey, once the house sells, your cut should set you up nice. Maybe one of those retirement communities with activities and stuff. Patronizing. Dismissive. Like I was a problem he'd solved. Thanks for the suggestion, Brandon. No problem. Water under the bridge, right? None at all. I hung up. Trevor looked at me. You good? Better than good. I played back the recording. He just admitted everything. All recorded, all admissible. I met with District Attorney Patricia Ramos. She reviewed my evidence for 2 hours, finally looked up. Mr. Hartley, this is one of the most comprehensive packages I've seen. Insurance fraud, elder abuse, possible criminal neglect. We could build a felony case. How long? Warrants ready in 48 hours. I nodded. Day 19, before Brandon thinks he's won. She smiled grimly. Consider it done. The night before. Alone in my apartment. Claire's photo on the table. I opened her journal, read her last entry again. I'm scared, but Dad's here. He always makes things better. My voice broke. I'm making it better, sweetheart. I promise. I set my alarm. 6:30 a.m., day 19. I sat in darkness, phone in hand, waiting. Brandon was across town, sleeping, celebrating, planning his future with Claire's money. My voiceover. Brandon fell asleep, counting millions. He woke up to Miranda rights. Clock. 6:47 a.m., day 19. Subscribe so you don't miss his face when reality hits. Comment bait. 3 days early? Too soon? Or perfect timing?
I walked into St. Joseph's Hospital, room 412. Monitors beeping, IV drips, oxygen hissing. Gabrielle Morton looked like a ghost. 52. Could pass for 80. Just like Claire at the end. Mr. Hartley, you came. I sat, took her hand gently. Tell me everything. The first victim. Gabrielle met Brandon in 2009. She was 36. He was 24. She owned 3 successful bakeries in Folsom. Strong financials. They married fast. 6 months later, ovarian cancer. Brandon's reaction seemed supportive. We'll fight this together. But then he convinced her to add him to business accounts, delayed her treatment, pushing alternative medicine, took out $750,000 life insurance, started an affair. He told me conventional treatment was poison, that we should try holistic approaches first. By the time I got real treatment, the cancer had spread. She went into remission in 2014. He divorced her immediately, took half her assets. He was my practice run, Mr. Hartley. He learned from his mistakes with me. By the time he found Claire, he'd perfected his system. Over the next week, I met them all. Diane Foster, 2012. Married Brandon during her ovarian cancer treatment. He drained her retirement accounts. Divorced her when she went into remission. Patricia Santos dated Brandon for 8 months. She had lupus. He maxed out her credit cards. $45,000 in debt. Disappeared when she started treatment. Then Andrea Chen. Engaged to Brandon. Early breast cancer. He borrowed money for a business emergency. $30,000. Vanished the day she started chemo. Then Claire. 2020, 2024. The longest relationship. The largest payout. The most calculated cruelty. 5 women. 15 years. 1 predator. On day 28, the district attorney called me with news that changed everything. This is where justice gets real. Stay with me. Patricia Ramos sat across from me in her office. With these testimonies, we're looking at a pattern of predatory behavior. Brandon Cassidy specifically targeted vulnerable women with medical conditions. This goes beyond fraud. This is systematic exploitation. She slid a document across her desk. Additional charges. Pattern of elder abuse. Serial fraud across multiple victims. Predatory financial exploitation. Conspiracy to commit insurance fraud. Regarding Claire, criminally negligent infliction of suffering. Combined, he's looking at 15 to 25 years. I should have felt triumph. Instead, I just felt tired. Will it bring her back? Patricia's expression softened. No, but it might save someone else's daughter. The preliminary hearing. 6 weeks later. I attended with every victim who could make it. Gabrielle in a wheelchair, oxygen tank beside her. Andrea clutching her documentation. Patricia via video conference. Diane holding my hand for support. Brandon entered in an orange jumpsuit, shackled, 20 pounds lighter. His expensive attorney beside him. When Brandon's eyes scanned the room and saw us all together, every woman he'd hurt, every family he'd destroyed, his face crumbled. He finally understood. We'd found each other. And we were united against him. Naomi Winters, Claire's hospice nurse, took the stand. In my 15 years as a hospice nurse, I've never seen a patient suffer unnecessarily like Emily Mitchell did. The medication was prescribed. It was available. Someone chose not to give it to her in full doses. That choice meant she spent her final weeks in preventable agony. The prosecutor held up a photograph. Claire's medication log, her shaky handwriting. Pain level 9 out of 10. Pills not helping.
asked Brandon. He said I took them all. Date: 1 week before she died. The gallery gasped. I closed my eyes, saw Claire's face, heard her voice. I've reviewed the evidence, the pattern of behavior, the testimony from multiple victims, and the particularly egregious circumstances surrounding Claire's final days. Mr. Cassidy, you are bound over for trial on all charges. Bail is set at $2 million, the exact amount of insurance you sought to claim. Brandon tried to speak. The judge cut him off. Additionally, I'm ruling that Vincent Hartley is the sole rightful owner of the property on Willow Creek Drive. The deed will be corrected immediately. Gavel. Trevor leaned over. You won. Everything. But I was staring at Claire's photo on the evidence screen. Victory felt hollow. 3 months later. Guilty on 12 of 14 counts. Sentence: 18 years in state prison. Financial penalties: $3.2 million in restitution to all victims. I didn't attend sentencing. I was at the cemetery instead. At Claire's grave, I placed fresh flowers. Margaret's grave beside hers. I got him, sweetheart. He'll never hurt anyone again. The house is safe, your memory is protected, and other families won't suffer because of him. I touched her headstone. But you're still gone, and that's the part no revenge can fix. My reflection. People ask if it was worth it. The fight. The pain. Reliving Claire's suffering for months. I don't know. Because I still come home to an empty house. Still set the table for one. Still reach for my phone to call Claire before remembering. Revenge didn't bring her back. But it did something else. 3 years after Brandon's sentencing, a letter arrived from Andrea Chen. She was engaged, healthy, debt-free from Brandon's restitution payments. She'd named her daughter Claire. Because of what you did, Mr. Hartley, I got my life back. I'm alive to watch my daughter grow up. Claire's memory saved me. More letters came after that. Patricia Santos, cancer-free 5 years, married, wrote a book about surviving financial abuse. Diane Foster. She passed peacefully 6 months after the trial, but her final months were comfortable. The fund I created helped cover her care. Gabrielle Morton. Died 3 weeks after testifying. But she died knowing Brandon would face justice. Her family sent me a thank you card. And strangers, dozens of them. Families helped by the Claire Hartley Comfort Care Fund I established. Survivors of financial abuse who heard our story and found courage to leave. People who recognized the warning signs because of what we exposed. I donated $250,000 to start it, money from selling some of Catherine's jewelry and investments I no longer needed. The Claire Hartley Comfort Care Fund provides pain medication, medical equipment, and end-of-life care for families who can't afford it. In 3 years, we've helped 312 families. 312 people who won't suffer the way Claire did. That's what I built from the ashes of my revenge.
But the story doesn't end there. Because one morning, sitting at my kitchen table, my phone rang. Unknown number. I've learned to answer these. Mr. Hartley? Speaking? Female voice. Young. Scared. My name is Susan Rodriguez. I saw your story on the news. My husband, he's doing to me what Brandon did to Claire. I have lupus. He's been taking my pain medication, hiding money. I found life insurance policies I never signed. I don't know what to do. I set down my coffee.
pulled out a notepad. "Tell me everything, Susan. Start from the beginning." "Really? You'll help me?" "You're not alone anymore." She started crying, relief mixed with fear. As she talked, I took notes, recognized the pattern immediately. Brandon's playbook. Someone else was using it. When she finished, I had 17 pages of notes. "Susan, I'm going to connect you with my attorney, and the detective who worked Claire's case, and the victim's advocate who helped the other women. We're going to build your case, document everything, and we're going to make sure you're protected." "Thank you. Thank you so much." "One more thing, Susan. When this is over, when you're safe, I want you to do something for me. Anything. Help the next person. Pass it forward. That's how we stop people like Brandon. That's how we honor the ones we lost." After we hung up, I sat in my kitchen. Claire's photo on the mantel, Catherine's chair by the window. The house was quiet, but it didn't feel empty anymore. It felt purposeful. Over the next 5 years, I helped 12 more women escape similar situations. Susan Rodriguez got her restraining order. Her husband was convicted of financial exploitation. She's healthy now, runs a support group. 3 more predators were prosecuted using the same investigative framework I built for Brandon's case. The district attorney's office now has a task force specifically for financial exploitation of vulnerable adults. They call it the Claire Protocol. Brandon Cassidy is serving his sentence at California State Prison, Sacramento, parole eligible in 2039. He'll be 73 years old. I'll be 91. I plan to be there at his hearing to remind the board exactly what he did to every single woman in excruciating detail. Because that's the thing about revenge. The real revenge isn't watching him rot in prison. It's making sure his crimes created something good, something that saves lives, something that turns victims into survivors, and survivors into advocates. I'm 68 now, 5 years since Claire died, 5 years since that funeral. The grief hasn't gone away. It never will. But it's not crushing anymore. It's purposeful. Brandon gave me 21 days to leave my home. I spent 3 days packing, and the rest of my life making sure he'd never hurt anyone again. Some people ask if I forgive him. No. Forgiveness is for people who show remorse, who acknowledge their harm, who try to make amends. Brandon showed none of that. At his sentencing, he blamed everyone but himself, the economy, the stress, even Claire for not being stronger. So no, I don't forgive him. But I moved past him. Because the best revenge isn't punishment. It's building something so meaningful from your pain that the person who hurt you becomes irrelevant. Brandon took my daughter, but I took his freedom, his money, his reputation, and his ability to hurt anyone else. And then I built something beautiful in Claire's name. That's the revenge that actually matters. Yesterday I received a package from the Women's Coalition Against Financial Abuse, an award named after Claire. The Claire Hartley Courage Award, given annually to survivors who escape exploitation and help others do the same. First recipient, Susan Rodriguez. I held that plaque and cried. Not sad tears, proud ones. Because Claire's life meant something. Her death meant something. And the fight I waged in her name, that means something too. I'm in my kitchen now. Same table where Brandon convinced Claire to sign over the deed, where he smiled his predator smile, where he thought he'd won. My laptop is open. I'm reviewing a case file. Another woman reached out, another predator to expose. My phone buzzes. Text from Trevor. Another victim came forward about Brandon. Found her through the online registry. Makes 6 total. DA wants to reopen for additional charges. I smile. Type back. Send me her information. Because Brandon thought giving me 21 days would break me. Instead, it armed me. With purpose. With knowledge. With an unshakable determination to protect people he never even met. That's not just revenge. That's legacy. Claire's legacy. And I'll spend every remaining day I have honoring it. Brandon gave me 21 days. I've given him a life sentence, and I've given Claire's memory immortality. Justice isn't just about punishment. It's about protection. It's about making sure the fight meant something. And ours, it meant everything.